ever been here for Filter.
Oh, yeah. I'm honored, honestly. Filter me up.
Yeah.
This is going to be a top tier filter.
Yeah, the real YouTube and Twitch ones are going to truly appreciate. So I don't even know how Twitch works. When we're done, is this whole thing on Twitch after it's done, or is it just live on Twitch?
No, I don't believe so. There are certain ways that you can like save videos, and then there are clips that people can make. But generally, once the stream's over, it's
over.
It's done. Yeah.
Kind of cold. I'm gonna put on a sweatshirt if that's okay. Hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Cold in LA.
Yeah. So, well, wait for Matt to put on the sweatshirt. Obviously, if you're consuming the filter. Oh, there it is.
This is podcast gold right here.
Yeah. There you go.
Come for.
So the filter, for those who will check this out, Matt from Mountjoy is here in the filter to, once the pod starts, really just answer for his crimes or his manager's crimes or his band, whoever's the venue's crimes. And Mike is actually going to be a little late. So the first part of the pod is just going to be Matt getting grilled about the CJ situation until Mike shows up.
I got my water. I'm in a strange environment. I've never been in this apartment in my life. And I think the man who lives here is going to walk through the door at some point, which should be fun. But I'll mute. Don't worry.
Oh, really? Are you Airbnb-ing or are you?
No, we were rehearsing up in like the valley, and where I'm staying is in downtown LA. But for me to try to get there right now, it would take like an hour. So our manager's friend was just like, do it at my house. He's a podcaster. I don't know what the podcast is, but
yeah, everybody is. Honestly, at this point, who isn't a podcaster?
It's true. It's true.
I wonder how close you are to Mike. Maybe Mike can just come over and you guys can.
Mike doesn't like when we say where he possibly lives on the pod.
Yeah, that's big time. That's when you know you've made it.
So it was okay.
Somewhere.
Funny story. Then we'll actually start about that. Is he made mention once about, I'm not even going to say what it was. There was like a certain noise or something that indicated that maybe somebody could know where he is. And he asked me to cut it out. Now, meanwhile, he's in fucking California. I'm in Philadelphia, repeating over and over again that I'm in Springfield, Delaware County. In Philadelphia, not an issue. But somebody might recognize the fire station. This was a different place that Mike lived, that Mike might live near, and we got rid of it just in case. You never know. You never know.
Wow.
Right?
He must have some really spicy takes.
Yeah. All right, here we go. You ready? Matt,
let's do it.
CJ.
Let's do it.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Mortgage CS. Become a Mortgage CS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. And Stateside Urban Craft Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, was statesidevodka.com. On the show today, Matt from Mountjoy joins us for his first appearance on the pod since deep in the throes of the pandemic, when, according to me, they were way less famous than they are now, but we'll find that out from Matt. As well, Kevin Durant may go to Boston. That is the rumor. And James Harden has officially signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. Before we get going, I did mention Stateside Urban Craft Vodka. Now, I enjoy the regular vodka for the pod because I like sipping away. The Stateside regular vodka is, of course, incredible and made in Philadelphia and gluten-free. But the Surfside iced tea and vodka is I believe, becoming their signature drink and the official drink of the summer of 2022. Only 3 carbs, only 100 calories, just a perfect amount of sweetness and no carbonation, because iced tea does not have carbonation. You can get it at statesidevodka.com. You have to be 21. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here.
Say the name, I say the name, I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. 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 I say the name. I say the name. Say the name.
Likes Tricky Sanchez forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is in Los Angeles, looks like he's being held hostage, but is not Mike Levin. That is one Matt Quinn of the band Mount Joy. Welcome,
Yeah.
Matt.
I am. I'm being held hostage. I'm trying to repent for maybe how CJ felt that night.
So Mike will join us shortly. Matt, okay, so we will get to the album. We'll of course, we'll get to the tour coming up. Of course, you're playing Philadelphia as well, the Skyline Stage, the Mann, which I've never been to. I've been to the Mann, never the Skyline Stage, because by the time they started the Skyline Stage, my GA show days were sort of like, I'm mid-40s, bro. Like, GA show is like, I don't know if I can do it. It looks beautiful, though, Skyline Stage.
Look, I mean, we'd put you on the guest list, but it's shaky. It's a shaky.
So where was this show? So we want to get, we've mentioned in the last couple of pods, the CJ controversy. The last time Mount Joy played Philadelphia was, do we remember?
It was December. It was like the second week in December.
Okay. And venue?
The Fillmore.
Fillmore. Great venue, of course. Incredible venue. What, about 5 years old, Fillmore, I think?
Yeah, it's pretty new.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure.
So I don't remember how. I think maybe Matt reached out, and I think maybe you reached out and said, "Hey, if anybody wants to go to the show, we'll put them on the list." I couldn't go. I'm up here. Mike's in LA, but I'm like, you know what? CJ would probably like to go to the show. He was pretty jazzed. You're like, no problem. Put him on the list. Could you please explain what happened as he was not on the list?
There's there's levels to this. If there's anyone out there who tours, there's an app called Master Tour, and I'm not going to throw the app under the bus, but I think that's ultimately the breakdown is most touring bands use, or at least the ones I know, use this app, and it kind of tells you, where you're supposed to be and when, and then there's also like a tab in it, and you can go on your phone and put your guest list in. But the problem with that is it creates like a multi-step process for your name to actually get on the actual venues list. So the boring answer is that I put you on the list. I have the receipts. And a tour manager who has since, of course, been fired immediately. He just didn't put you on the actual list. That's the reality of the situation.
So, before my sports radio career, I had a long music radio career, 15 years in Philadelphia and Chicago, and a lot of concerts and a lot of lists. And I have to say, the problem with the list is that 85% of the time you are not on it when you're supposed to be. And you have that moment, like there's always the nerves when you're going up and you go, hey, I'm on the list. And there's a little bit of an eye roll and they look and you're not. And you got to get out of the way because there's people behind you, but you're on the list. And as I mentioned to CJ, the worst is when the band put you on the list because they go, who put you on? And you're like, the band. Like, no, they didn't. It is.
I think I gave the poor girl working the counter, like 3 different variations of my name just to see if maybe it was something else, if it was spelled a different way. And every time she did that slow walk to the back to see the list, it was like 3 steps to get there. And I just knew every time she came back, it was going to be the same answer.
Sometimes, like in the old days of the Electric Factory, they would just feel bad for you, and since there was no seats anyway, they would just take out a couple of comps and give them to you just to make you go away. But that didn't happen to CJ. Not nowadays.
Well, here's the wrinkle. Everyone, and I mean everyone except for me and like family members, everyone, think this is December of 2021. everyone got COVID at that show. And like, I mean, it was there's
Sorry for laughing.
like us. No, it's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of them died to my knowledge, but like, it was a super spreader event. Obviously we didn't intend for it to be that. That was like right when Omicron hit Philadelphia, like so hard. And I was trying to protect CJ as a fan of the pod and a fan of like, public safety. I knew that was a dangerous situation, and wanted to help CJ out.
So actually, in fairness, I did get COVID in December of that month. CJ, I don't know if you remember. I did. Yeah. Now I wasn't at the show, but who knows? It could have been that COVID that got to me. The spreading. That's how super spreading works.
Right.
So obviously, we appreciate you owning up to it. There is a show coming up, the Skyline Stage at the Mann Center, which is September 10th. Tickets are on sale now, of course. Obviously, we're going to have CJ be put on the list, but is there any sort of elevated list that we can get him on so we can make it up to him? Obviously, this has nothing to do with me. It's really mostly about CJ at this point.
Right. Look, I think it would be really funny if we screwed him over again. Like that would be like the true that would be like our humor really coming out.
Yeah.
Look, I think CJ should come to the show. I think he should come prepared to get on the stage. I think we do a thing which like will save you from like maybe like too much awkwardness, but we do a thing now with a song that's really fun called Johnson's Song, where we've been just kind of bringing people up onto the stage and having people go crazy, and we usually select like people who I guess look like they want to be there. And but I was thinking, I think CJ comes on the stage, maybe we get a little back-to-back guitar action, like whatever really you need to feel fulfilled in that moment.
CJ, how do you feel? Do you accept this as an apology, as an olive branch?
So the weight of this situation was a little enhanced the first time around because I brought a friend. I had just moved to Philly. It was like a week into me living here. And I brought a friend, was showing him around, my neighborhood. And I was like, oh, I got tickets to this show from the band. Like, how crazy is that? And then we get there. We're not on the list. Luckily, just a random couple walking by us had 2 extra tickets. So we got in. And most of my anxiety was like, okay, I brought a friend and I'm not delivering. Since that happening, I have the DM. You said that you were going to personally open the door. I have absolutely sent this to multiple of my friends because that was the coolest shit for me to see the day after this happening. So I have a few more friends now that are antsy and coming, and I feel like they would all, probably more than me, enjoy getting up on stage.
But you're asking for more people on stage?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
It seems like the theme of this is that the more the merrier.
Wow.
Yeah, not necessarily, but it is now. It is now.
Do you normally bring up just one person for this song?
Well, no. I mean, it's usually like we're actually really trying to figure it out. Like the biggest thing with stuff like that is like, I don't know, like we're learning on the fly. Like, you don't want it to be corny. You don't want it to be a corny, like, I've been to shows where it's like there's like a whole family up there and there's like tortilla chips flying everywhere. Like you don't want any part of that. So.
Yeah, it takes too long to get them all off. I've been Green Day actually perfected it when they would bring kids up to play Knowledge, the Op Ivy cover that they did, and they would have one kid play guitar and one kid, whatever. So CJ and his 17 friends on the stage let's
do it.
Okay, great. You mentioned Johnson's Song, Orange Blood, this new album. I would say that the Johnson Song into Don't It Feel Good is like probably the best like back-to-back Mountjoy song to song in existence currently right now. How do you feel about that? I'm
okay with that. Yeah. I personally, there he is.
Mike, just so you know, just so we're clear, Matt offered CJ to come to the show at the Mann at the 10th, Skyline Stage, be up on stage during a song. CJ...
A song of his choosing?
Yeah, of of Matt's choosing, a song called
like
Johnson's
that.
Song. Good tune. But CJ countered with, how about me and a bunch of my friends come up on stage?
Wow, CJ always shouting out the friend group. He's got to bring his boys with him.
An opportunist.
And Matt has said okay. So
Wow, good negotiating. Okay.
yeah, yep,
That's right.
No negotiation.
yeah. So Johnson's Song and Don't It Feel Good. It's just, I just want to say, like, both songs, way different vibes, but really just a good back to back, I think.
Yeah, like at this point, this is our third album, and at this point, I feel really comfortable just being like, it's my favorite shit, So it's been fun to like do some promo for it, because not that wasn't true the last time, but I don't know, like a lot of insecurity about it, but I really dig this record. So yeah, I love Johnson's Song, and I like Don't It Feel Good too. So yeah, I'll take that.
This
You
is
do
really
see-
your Tyrese Maxey year. You're going in, you guys, album-wise, you were in the same place that he is.
Yeah,
Speak
I
on
shot
it.
like 42. Yeah, well, I shot like 42% from three during COVID, and a good album comes out of it. And yeah, I just got in a big argument with my little brother. Not a big argument, but a regular-sized argument about
Great.
the idea of trading Maxey for like a Donovan Mitchell or whatever. But yeah, just like I feel like if this is our Tyrese Maxey album, then I expect to make millions and millions of dollars, because that seems to be where he's headed.
What side of the argument were you on?
I honestly think it's like it depends on if you can get rid of Tobias for me, because I think then you can do this like reset thing where you get a third guy, and I would take Donovan Mitchell at that point. But
It's okay. We both
know,
said the same thing. We
yeah,
both said the same thing.
I really like Tyrese Maxey though. I worry that like I've been a Philadelphia fan long enough that I worry that like he kind of lands somewhere in the middle of last year in the rookie year in terms of shooting the ball. But if he doesn't, I might have to get like a Tyrese Maxey face tat or something like that.
Mike, I did warn that Matt, because of the timing of this, was going to have to be here for the commercials, but I would expressly say that Matt does not endorse or anti-endorse any of these companies, that they are our sponsors, not Mountjoy's. You okay with that?
I'll endorse them. Yeah,
Okay. So the first one is Mortgage CS. By the way, interest rates went up again today, which makes it even more important for you to find a mortgage broker that is on your side, an independent mortgage broker, not a lender. Mortgage CS is a mortgage broker. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. You become a Ricky VIP for Mortgage CS. Okay, so what is a broker? What a broker does is they don't give you the money. They go find the bank to give you the money. Their job is supposed to be to get you the best rate, to inform you in this entire process, step by step by step. But not all mortgage brokers do that. Some of them have like side deals with the bank. Some of them are selling your information to people as you type it in after you Google it. Mortgage CS doesn't do any of that shit. They're independent. They're small. It's like 9 people, and they're there to work for you, to help you understand every part of the mortgage process. Now more than ever, super important. And they're there for you any single time you need them. At night, they're there for you. Weekend, there for you. In fact, I will give you the CEO Ben's cell phone number. You can text him at any time. You can text him right now. Right now, as we talk to Matt from Mountjoy, who does not endorse Mortgage CS specifically, but he is here for the commercial. 267-391-7425. That is 267-391-7425. Tons of people on Google have given them 5-star reviews, but tons of our listeners, Ricky people, have gone to Mortgage CS and they said, you know what? Ben's the real deal. Alex, the real deal. Everyone there is the real deal. And here's the most important part. They say, and they've said this to me numerous times, you go to Mortgage CS, if you end up getting a mortgage through them, great. But more importantly, they want you to feel better about getting a mortgage afterwards and the fact that you understood it. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky, schedule a consultation, or 267-391-7425, call or text Ben. I said mortgagecs.com/Ricky, right? Yes. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information. You guys are going on tour, and this touring season is fucking nuts. Mutlu was going to do a show a couple months ago that we were going to do a Carl Landry Record Club thing during, and he got COVID. We had to cancel it. And this was in April. And he's like, all right, we're back on for November 21st. And I was like, what? And then, Amos has mentioned to us, like, it's got to be wild to even go out and get dates right now, right? And there's so much competition to sell tickets.
Yeah. No, it's a bloodbath. It's like I guess like so many people couldn't tour during. Yeah, it's a sound bath for sure. No one could tour for like 2 years, and so everyone booked tours for now. The competition is pretty great, but we're doing good. I think we're just trying to avoid the COVID thing. We're rehearsing now in Los Angeles, at an undisclosed location. I heard that that's really important to you, so that we keep LA. It's a pretty vast place, but somewhere in LA, they'll never find us.
You do look like you're in the same place, by the way. I told you. Matt said I look like I'm being held hostage. I was like, oh, that's what Mike's background always looks like. So.
Yeah.
You guys are playing the Palladium, right?
Yeah, playing in. We're go for it.
I drove by. I didn't know that you were playing there. I drove by and saw the name. I almost got in like 3 accidents as I was craning my neck to make sure that I was reading it correctly. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, we're excited. We're starting the tour out here, so rehearsing out here, and it's pretty amazing. I left Philly a few days ago, and it's like 150 degrees there, but it's somehow perfect here no matter what. So it's been good.
Actually, when I was in college 100 years ago, I saw Hole at the Palladium, a great, really cool venue. I can't think of any other way to ask this because I'm just supposing, but you're a popular live band, and I only know your music. I don't know you as a live band. I've never seen you. Are you like one of those live bands where everybody's there, high on pot, smoking pot? Is it like a fucking Dave Matthews and Fish and everybody's like, whoa, Mount Joy? Or is it a different kind of vibe than that? Because that was my guess, is that was the kind of vibe.
And you're personally drug testing them, right? You're getting out there, you're checking, asking around.
Look, they all.
Who's high on pot?
Yeah. Yeah, we do like a raise of hands situation.
That's nice.
It typically smells like pot.
There's a good guess then. Okay.
I don't know. It's weird. Like, we come from this era of like, our success story is like touring a lot over the last 5 years, but also like Spotify. So like algorithms that just like pop out the most, like, I don't know. So there are a lot of different types of people, but pot is definitely smoked.
What would be the Spotify searching terms for like pot bands? Like, are you on that? High on pot bands?
Yeah. I honestly don't know. Like, it's funny. My only interface with Spotify is like, especially now, like I get like super, like anal about, what a weird word. Just anytime it comes out of your mouth too, but I get super into like looking at the stats for our band and stuff like that. So I have this like Spotify gives me anxiety for that reason. I think it's sort of like the, like if you like made the team or not, like they post like the names on the things. Every time I check, I like see if we're doing well or not. So I don't really know. I don't know what we would search for that, but that was the worst answer to anything anyone's ever given.
Are there bands that you get compared to that you don't like? And you don't have to say what they are because I'm not going to ask you to blow up anybody's spot. But are there bands that you're like, don't compare me? I'm sure like NBA players would have it all the time. If like, somebody getting compared to like Julius Randle and they're like, I'm not Julius Randle. Come on.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't even have to say the name, but we basically, and I actually really like these guys, but I'll just say it. Like, we get compared to, we were on a label called Dual Tone. Oh yeah. And we toured with the Lumineers, and they're great people, and they've like, a great band and everything like that. I just don't think we're that similar to them. But because we sort of like came up in the same label, and because mostly people don't like listen to your music before an interview or something, they just read like a fact sheet about who you are. It's like we get that a lot, but I think we're pretty different from them, especially live. Like just different sounding band, and yeah, we just get the folk thing a lot, which is like we have definitely a lot of folk sounding tunes, but I think we're like a little more diverse than like kind of straight ahead like rootsy folk.
Isn't Amos dual tone? I think he is.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so I'm gonna ask you. It's funny Mike brought that up. I have a question to ask you regarding that. So I had two bands I thought of to compare you to. Not that you sound like them, but it sounded like maybe you liked them. And I think they were both compliments. And I'm hoping, and I feel, I was getting deja vu that maybe I'd asked you this before, but this was on the new record, not on the other record. So I heard, while I was listening, I heard Talking Heads and I heard the Pixies. And I'm wondering if A, you consider that a compliment, and B, if those were bands that you felt were like meaningful to you at any point.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely a compliment. I'm like, I'd be, being a like bit of a poser if I said I like knew all of the Pixies stuff, but obviously like super aware of the hits and like the Pixies. Huge fan of the Talking Heads though. That's definitely an important band for me in terms of like just trying to like when you make something, you have the opportunity to like, can I say the F word? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
You just fuck it up. Like their whole thing feels like make a song and then make it weird. It's like, and that's definitely part of the process for us.
We've had, a bunch of musicians on the pod in history, and there's always you never know how much attention they pay to the Sixers if they're a Sixers fan, because there's some people that are just normal and are just like check in every once in a while, and then there's lunatics. Where are you on that scale?
Lunatic, like I mean, listen to you guys, and I always am sympathizing with Mike because I physically and emotionally get so invested that like the level of disappointment that I feel when we're like, it's clear that we're going to lose to Miami or whatever the thing is, it's like, it ruins my life, like, like in a really disgusting way. Like the next day is bad. I'm all in. It's really unfortunate.
So what is the worst?
Go ahead.
What is the worst like Sixers loss you've had to endure like while on tour?
Ooh, I don't know about while on tour, but by far the worst one, which was the worst one for everyone, but it was specifically bad for me, was of course the 5 bounces on the rim, which like even hearing Brett Brown talk about that, you guys did that was such a great interview, but hearing him talk about the ball bouncing on the rim, it sent me, because we have an agent who's a great guy, but he is a huge Raptors fan. And so like the ball goes through the net, I want to throw up, and then the texts just start lighting up from like a Raptors fan.
You fire your agent then. You fire him. You fire him.
Honestly, he did a thing where he's our Canadian agent, and he did a thing where like the next time I saw him, it was like he was kind of like a little softer than he was on the text. It was like bring that same energy. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you feeling? Are you having seen what you saw from Harden, having seen the off season, where do you stand?
I'm a big like conspiracy theorist, not in the like Trump way, but in the way of like, I think PR campaigns often kind of get like fed into, very deliberately get fed in. And this new factoid about pick and roll, the effectiveness of the pick and roll between Embiid and Harden feels like very planted. It's like, this is going to work. And it's like, it's working. Like it's making me excited about the Sixers, and I'm just taking the medicine. And I think for that reason, I'm excited. I think, like I said, I think it really hinges on, obviously, Harden taking a bit of a step forward from the playoffs, where I think people forget, like it was like Sixers level weird there for a second in the playoffs, where like he wouldn't involve himself in a pretty big moment in the season, and he's one of the 75 greatest players of all time. So if he's gonna be back to his normal self, and then you get a little step forward from Maxey, I mean, of course, I believe in it.
Because just to go back to it, when the Sixers lose, I have to then come on this podcast and talk about the Sixers losing, and I can be upset about it. In fact, it's generally encouraged to feel my feelings about it. If that were to happen to you, and then you have to sing like a heartfelt, emotional song, tap into that different place, and like even some of your songs are a little bit on the sunnier side, and then to get there after a debilitating, frustrating Sixers loss, I feel like would be even more difficult than what I have to do, which is just react to the way that these motherfuckers have made me feel.
There was a Celtics loss. I'm just remembering this. We were in Minneapolis, and there was a Ben Simmons era. I think it was like a playoff Sixers that terrible series. And I remember specifically being in Minneapolis. It was like 0 degrees, and it lined up like pretty much exactly what you're talking about, where like I was in the green room on my phone watching this game. It became clear the Sixers were going to lose, and they get from the tour manager like 5 minutes before you go on, and I'm just like, get me the fuck out
you,
of
man.
here. Like, yeah.
Fuck your 5 minutes.
But thankfully for me, honestly, like, not to be corny or whatever, but like it is really like a dream come true to do this. So at least I have this, at least I can like go up and like there's something going for me. But I feel for the people who are just sitting on their couch and just taking it.
It does so quickly go from like I'm watching the Sixers game, like I have a good life. I like the things about my life that I like. So when like the Sixers lose, I'm like, I have nothing. There's no point to any of it. This is a waste of time, my whole fucking existence, because of these pieces of shit. So yeah, but you pull back, and yes, it's nice that you're getting to tour and sing music, and your music is not about the Sixers.
I remember when, I'm sure I've told this story before, but I remember when Hinkie resigned, having to talk Mike into doing the podcast.
Yeah, that was dramatic of me. That was a dramatic time.
I was like, if there's any time we're going to do the podcast, it is right now.
Well, you guys were so like creatively invested in the Hinkie thing. I mean, I'm staring at rights to Ricky Sanchez. It felt like it kind of makes sense to me. Your main character just got shot down.
Yeah,
so that's tough.
Huge ratings when the main character gets shot. Everybody.
Yeah, I didn't want him. Yeah. I didn't want any of those ratings. I wanted to protest by not saying anything at all.
Do
you ever get worried that you're going to run out of ideas for songs?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Well, especially this is the period. It's like the album's out.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like ideas that didn't make the last record. I have new ideas that kind of are floating around, but it's like, this is the moment where you would feel that the most, or where I do feel that the most, where I'm like, okay, because you're at ground zero, you're trying to write the next chapter. And you do know that like at some point, and I'm a sports fan, so I know like the longevity of athletes and musicians the same. It's like, I'm like, am I at that point where like it's going to start sucking now? You definitely get in your own head a little bit.
Do you feel like there is like an athletic prime to musicians?
Yeah, I think it depends, but like obviously, but I think if you look at albums, there's a fun kind of, you can go down through the game of your favorite bands or whatever. And typically like the first record is the darling, you get your whole life to make it. Then you get maybe the sophomore slump. But the first 3 feel pretty safe. It's like, if you're a good band, a lot of bands have like go 3 records deep. I think like 4 records, like it's a little scary. It starts to get to where it's like, if you're putting out like 5 really solid records, like you start getting into pretty rarefied air. So yeah, we're probably fucked.
And do you think that that's because like you only have so many tricks a little bit, like you sort of like played yourself out, or the fact that like once you've become, famous or, so successful at the thing you're doing that you are like kind of unable to tap back into those kinds of feelings of like, whether it's like longing or just like wanting it so badly that you kind of can't get there anymore?
I think it's probably a combination of those, but mostly the second one, because I think it's all about hunger. Like, I actually was listening to a podcast with Dave Matthews from like a while ago, but on a plane ride here, and he was talking about how like he's so rich, that guy, that it's like he has to like go and watch like musicians that like aren't making any money to try to like steal some of their power, which is that they're hungry and that they're doing it for the right reason, right? It's like in the beginning, there's no promise of ever having a career in music. So it's really like pure, and yeah, like it's coming from this great place. And I think, you know, if you start having success, you start making some money, your life changes from a place where I think it's hard to like manufacture that hunger. Fortunately for us, like I haven't made like extraordinary amounts of money. I'm not in the Dave Matthews conversation, so I still have like a hunger, because I really think like you described us being a great live band, or you didn't use the word great live band, but a live band,
Popular live band.
I really
Definitely a very popular live band.
Gave
really
yourself
did a
great. You gave yourself that gift.
I really threw greatness on top of that, but no, like I really think that we have this chip on our shoulder still, like, you know, because like for a band that does the tickets that we do, and you put our tickets up against like some of these other bands, and it's like just the cultural sort of like, I guess, relevancy that some of those bands have over against how much we get talked about. Like we definitely have that chip on our shoulder where we feel like, you know, when people come to our show, they come back and they bring their friends, and our numbers are going up. And it's not true for some of these other people who maybe we feel like get some more respect and love in the media or whatever it is.
It's funny. I remember the first time I went up to the Skyline Stage when it went up there. Did you know Brian Dilworth? Who was so Brian worked for Electric Factory. He was like a Philly concert promoter legend. He passed away a few years ago, right before COVID. But he booked the Mann, and I went up to where the Skyline Stage was, and I was like, "Oh, this is a cool area." And I looked out to Philly. I was like, "Oh, look, you can see the whole city." Oh, Skyline Stage. I get it. that's why they call it that. It is a cool venue, man. I mean, the Mann's legendary, but Skyline Stage it's beautiful up there. Have you played that specific stage before? No, and I've only been to the Mann a handful of times growing up. But like, you know, I went to like the actual like shed there or whatever it is. I've never been. Excited. So another commercial. You a dog guy?
Yeah, big dog guy.
Grow up with dogs or have a dog? It must be tough. You can't have. Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, my girlfriend is, you know, taking care of the dog. So.
You mind sharing the name of your dog?
The dog's name is Sechi, which is the number 7 in Portuguese. My girlfriend's Brazilian.
We will send, if you want a big barker for Sechi, we'll take care of that. You just let me know.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing. Yes.
Okay. All right. Big Barker, the official dog bed of the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. The only one that's actually going to make your dog healthier, because it's engineered to do that. It does that by, you know, if you slept on a shitty bed all the time, you would be less healthy. Your joints would be creaky, you'd be hurt in the morning, and then that would build on itself over and over and over again as you got older. Well, that's what happens with dogs, because people don't think about buying a good mattress for their dog, and that's where Big Barker comes in. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. If you go to bigbarker.com/Ricky, you not only get the Big Barker dog bed, but you get the Process Pup patches with it. Then you send us the photos of the dog on the bed, put them in the Process Pup gallery. I say this about it making your dog healthier is not bullshit. They did a study at Penn Vet, and it showed all of the things that I'm saying. Improvement in joint function, reduction in pain severity. And as your dog gets older, these things become more of an issue. Rebel's 8. I start to get worried about this shit, but he's been sleeping on a Big Barker for like 6 years. So I think he will be fine. Any size your dog is, doesn't need to be big, though they do have the giant ones. They have the Barker Jr., so small to very big. They have anything. Again, bigbarker.com/Ricky. 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. 1-year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog doesn't like it, they'll give you a full refund. And they'll even pay for the shipping. Made in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Bow-bow! You're here for the wolf, Matt. You're here for the wolf.
Huge for me.
Yeah. What is do you like being on tour? It seems so glamorous, like the idea of it, you know, it's in movies, it's really fucking cool. But in real life, it seems like a lot of shitty sleep and like weird free time where it isn't really free time. Like, do you feel like you get to see the country? Do you like the idea of being on tour?
You got a bus?
Yeah, yeah. We're on a bus. I was just gonna say there are like moments, like when you get to the bus, there are moments where like this is incredible. I could do this the rest of my life. It's like anything else where it's like we've been on a bus for a couple of years now, and
What kind of bus? What are we talking about?
I don't even know. I mean, there's a couple of different companies, but they're like Prevost, and you know, there's like typically you have like a front lounge area with some TVs and refrigerator and microwave kind of kitchenette type thing, and then you have the middle zone, which is like no windows, and those have anywhere from like 8 to 12 bunks. So it's like picture like bed. I don't know. This is terrible podcasting, but there's there's like 12 bunks, which is a lot of people.
Like sort of like submarine-y?
Yeah, literally like a ship.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's sick.
And like the last one we had, so this next one we're actually leveling up to 2 buses, so we'll have like a band bus, which would be nice because the last one was 12 bunks, right? So there's 3 bunks high on each one, which means you physically, like, if your elbow's up, you can't spin over in the bed. It's like you're in like an oven sheet.
Oh wow.
It's pretty intense. And
That's
you get
like
used
space.
to it.
That's the space station.
For sure. And then and then in the back you have a back lounge, video game, weed smoking zone, and
Shocker.
yeah. You know what? I'll tell you this. Like you're not a smoker, right, Spike?
I'm not. I tried it for like 6 months or 8 months, and I couldn't get into it. Did I tell the story on the pod when I smoked pot once before we podcasted? I don't think I ever told that story. Okay. So I like to have just a little bit of a sip of a drink when we're on the pod. I feel like it just like loosens me up a little bit. I'm having fun. I'm not worried that I'm up late, whatever. So I felt like I was drinking too much, and it was right. I was like, my wife was gone, and I was like, I'll get a medical marijuana card. I won't drink. I'll just like smoke pot or whatever. I'd done it once before. I didn't know.
What year is this?
Probably 18 or 19.
Okay.
It was pre-COVID. So I get it. I do it a couple like feels like whatever. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. So I tried to do it before a podcast because I would normally drink, and I hit it like few times, like kind of hard, and we were doing the podcast. And there's a point of the podcast where like Mike is talking, but none of the words are like hitting. Like I heard him talking, but I couldn't. And it wasn't that I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to something, but I don't. So he stopped talking, and it was obviously my turn to talk, but I had no idea what he had said. So I just sort of acted like there was something wrong with the internet and asked him to say it again. And
I feel like that's not that unusual based on me talking about summer league or draft prospects.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was my thing. I do not anymore. I don't like it. I feel like I think not like I would drive or anything. I feel like it disturbed my ability to think clearly, whereas like I don't think alcohol does in the same specific kind of way, if that makes sense.
Sure. I think I was just going to say for touring, it's like a pretty miracle drug because I smoke in this way where like I try to do it when I'm like done everything. Cause like, yeah, I've smoked a few times before shows, and I'll do that more if I'm like at a city where it's like, oh man, like, you know, it's like a Wednesday and I just don't have it and I need something to make it weird or like interesting in some
Name
way.
a city.
You know what? Yeah. No, I'll tell you. One time, because we've had great shows in Buffalo since, but we had a show once in Buffalo early on where it's like you walk out and you see what you're playing, and it was like this old jazz club, like where someone would be like, you know, like, I don't know, smoking a cigar and wearing a suit. Like it was just like not gonna work for us. And yeah, so we all got really high and then played the show. It was really wacky. And then the fans started like buying us shots, and it just turned into that weird spinning thing where you're like, whoa. that was one of the weirdest Mountjoy shows that ever existed, but not many people saw it. But anyways, my point was, it's a great thing for tour because you're sleeping on a bus, like I described, which is not the best arrangement, and it just helps you to like disconnect from the sort of surroundings of being on a bus going 80 miles an hour down the highway, and puts me to sleep. So yeah, that's really what I use it for.
Band name on the bus?
What'd you say?
Are you right? Is the band name on the side of the bus? Like,
Oh,
is it
no,
like
no,
it's
no.
The Mountjoy tour. Okay.
No, you know what's funny? What's funny is I'm really particular about, like, I'm not a prima donna at all, but one time we got this bus that had this, like, Jason Worth used to have like very complicated designs on his shirt, like the dragon, whatever that thing was.
Dan Flash's style shirt.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
like Dan Flashes, but Dan Flashes is different. That's like, this was like an era of t-shirt that like had like, you know what I'm talking about, people who are listening.
Yeah, like a dragon with a cross coming out of its mouth or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like something, lots of lines. And we got a bus once that was like kind of done like that, and we were like pulling up
The
in
outside?
cities and like, yeah, and
boy.
I couldn't. And you'll see these now when you like see tour buses. They're like really out there. Like I would say like 30% of buses have this like tattooed on the side of it, and I can't tour in one of those. Like I can't. It wouldn't work.
So the last time you were on the pod, it was like deep in pandemic. It was before we were doing the Ricky Zoomathon, and you did the cover of "You Don't Fuck With Me, I Don't Fuck With You." You're on the pod. I have even understanding how horrible the time was. I have this specific affinity for that era of life, and maybe it's because I don't remember what it was exactly like, but it sits in a really like cool place in my head. What do you remember about that time?
Man, for one, I remember how nervous I was to come on this podcast because like I really was. It was a weird time, but I was really, really nervous. And I remember I came into the I was waiting to get on the pod, and my thing wasn't on mute, and I was like
CJ's
talking to my
purgatory.
girlfriend.
Yeah, he likes to keep people there and torture them.
Well, we were only audio at that point. I don't even think we saw you. I think it was just audio, right? Yeah.
That sounds right. And anyways, I was like talking, and it like fucking ruined my life for like a week afterwards because I was like, damn it, I fucked up the Rights Ricky Sanchez pod, and I felt sick. But other than that, the real question you're asking is like, what was it like what do I remember about the pandemic? Honestly, for us, it was horrifying because you're like you said, we're a live band, and what's the one thing that you like really couldn't do is like shows and whatnot, and we really had to pivot to like Instagram and stuff like that, and that is like so far out of my comfort zone. But I just remember being like, please end, was really the overall feeling.
Do you think? Am I right in saying like obviously Mountjoy has grown since then, but it does feel a little bit exponential, or is it just I'm just more aware of you now than I was then? But it feels like the band's gone through a real period of growth between then and now.
And do you think it was because of this podcast, because it fucked up so much that people talked about how bad you did, and then everyone listened to music because of it?
It's funny. Like I think that's a part of it, the podcast that is, but also just we somehow like stumbled into, because we were coming off a tour actually with the Lumineers, and we were in a moment where it felt really good. Like we had just toured basketball arenas. I got to see all the visiting locker rooms. It was really cool for me. But it also felt like we were in this moment where we were, about to have like a moment. Right. And then for the pandemic to hit at that time, it was such a bummer because we just didn't know how to continue our momentum. But I think we sort of fell ass backwards into like we did like an Instagram benefit and raised a bunch of money and just kind of like did what we felt like we could. And those things, I think ultimately, including like going on this podcast and stuff, like a lot of the things we did during the pandemic felt like we just sort of closed our eyes and made some shots. And so I do think the pandemic was actually big for us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did that, I think even the podcast to a certain extent, we were like, we didn't have basketball. And although we had done off season before, just the idea of just saying kind of like fuck it and do whatever you can at the time. I think
But for many seasons we haven't had basketball. There's seasons we've done where that wasn't there.
So the album's great, Orange Blood. It's just now that everybody just streams everything. But I'm sure you have vinyl version of it, right? You're selling vinyl.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to get. I think our friends gave us I've never had a record player before. Never in my life. I lived with a guy who did, but it wasn't mine. I was too scared to touch it because I feel like I'd fuck it up. But I think we're gonna start. It's like a nice visual in the corner of the room and kind of get some. So, how many records do you have, Matt?
I don't have that many. I'm with you. I really I have one growing up because my dad was a big vinyl collector, and I just really started. I actually bought what's Seth Rogen's company? I don't want to plug it, but
Point Grey.
Yeah, Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, yeah, it's the name of his company.
Yeah.
At least his production company. I don't know.
No. He has like a home goods thing, and he has a turntable that I bought.
CJ's popping in.
There it is.
Yeah. Anyways, I bought that turntable not too long ago, and I don't know. I maybe have between 20 and 50 records, but just ones I really like.
That feels like a lot for me. It's probably more than I'll have.
No.
I own vinyl. I have it over there. I realize though that the experience of listening to records, I fucking actually hate. I romanticized it, but listening to actual records. But our friends Jason and AU of the Ricky, Jason of Billboard and of being mentioned on the Ricky, they're both
the Ricky live chat.
The Ricky live chat. They're both CD endorsers, and I feel like I could get back into CDs, but records I buy to support, and I love having the big art. But I really just, every time I get the urge to buy the record when it comes out, I'm like, I'll buy the fucking t-shirt. The margins are higher anyway. And I'll get the download because I'm not going to listen to the record anyway. But
I'll give this brief plug for vinyl, which is just that when we make our records, we think about crafting it such that, for example, you talked about Johnson's song, which is a song on the record that goes into Don't It Feel Good.
Yeah.
And then Don't It Feel Good is like this slower song, and that ends side one. We set that up so that then you would flip it over and you get Lemon Tree, right? As you flip over the record, you get this higher energy song. So I know a lot of artists that you guys probably love, they really do think about that. So that would be one sonic experience of the record that I think is worth at least checking out or thinking about, what's on side A, what's on side B, and how did they set that up?
For sure. Growing up as a tape guy, that was a big deal for me.
Same deal.
Yeah.
Maybe we release this podcast on vinyl.
We could sell them. There's legitimately no doubt we could sell them if we did a special one.
Imagine someone just having a one, because the records are less time than the podcast is. I sound
you guys have to do
so much better on vinyl.
49 minutes.
You don't really know what Mike's saying unless you hear it on vinyl. You really gotta listen to it. Just close your eyes, sit in a room by yourself, turn off the lights, and listen to what the fuck is Mike saying as he's crackling through the voice, talking about whatever the hell I'm talking about.
Maybe a single, a 45 of one of your best moments, just 3 minutes.
That would be so stupid.
Hey, the
cool art,
Brett
I'm sure.
Brown pod.
The Brett Brown pod is some vinyl.
Yeah.
Some cool art we could probably get from either Abby or Zainab or both.
Yeah. So
there's Abby.
There, yep, of course. Always in the chat. Leo roasting you in the chat, by the way. Abby's partner in Leo. Just roasting you for not having a record player.
I do have one. I newly have one. I just haven't plugged it in yet or whatever. I don't have anything to do. It's just sitting there right now.
I think, Matt, the album is really good. And I think I mentioned those two tunes, but I think Lemon Tree was the single or whatever, but it's a really cool album, man. And you said you sort of did whatever the fuck you wanted on this one. And it's a cool record. And it did give me Talking Heads vibes. And there's not a lot of bands, Talking Heads you would say are influential, but it's hard to find bands that you're like, oh, that reminds me of, or it gives me the vibe of. But it gave me the vibe of just that like kind of like weird warble to the music or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's a cool record. You should be proud of it. I hope it turned out the way that you had hoped.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, it's been really fun, and it's like you said, we're a live band, and so a lot of like thought goes into how does that fit into the live show, and it's just made our live show way more fun for me, at least, and it feels like a renewed energy. So we're really excited about it.
And I will see you soon at our undisclosed location.
And the tour starts in 3 days? The 30th? Is that the first day of the tour? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And Philly Skyline Stage at the Mann, September 10th, where CJ and his undisclosed. I have to say, when he was asking for more friends, I was both like horrified, and I'm like, well, here we are. I threatened the whole CJ thing, and here he is asking. He's so unassuming generally. I'm just so
That's
stunned
how he
that
gets by. That's how he does it. You think he's unassuming, then bam.
Way to go, CJ. Good for you.
I appreciate you and your time, and I hope the tour goes off without a hitch, man, with your bus that doesn't have the band's name on it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me. I guess we got to get Mike a vinyl. That feels like where this ends.
Yeah,
Let's do
absolutely.
It.
Yep.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Well, thank you, guys.
Good talking to you. Good luck.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Before we I want to do Durant real quick and Harden sign. We got a couple of actual Sixers things. DraftKings Sportsbook is the official presenting sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm going to go to futures. See if Harden. Oh, here we go. To make the playoffs. I haven't seen these odds before. Sixers minus 900 to make the playoffs. Plus 600 not to.
Might be a fun hard hedge of everything goes wrong bet. I think it might be nice to endorse an everything goes wrong bet. It wouldn't count to make the playoffs if they made the play-in and lost, right? If they were like the 8 seed
that's not making the
lost.
playoffs.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
That's not making the playoffs.
I would endorse a hard hedge of everything goes wrong. Make some money.
DraftKings Sportsbook. Use promo code RTRS if you're a new customer. You'll get up to $1,000 risk-free bet if you're a new customer and you use code RTRS. Same game parlays. Those are happening. Of course, futures like we were just talking about. MMA, UFC stuff going on, over-unders, whatever. Fucking love DraftKings. Safe, secure, reliable. You put the money in, it's in there. You take it out, it's out. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code RTRS to make your first deposit. Get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code RTRS. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. By the way, I wasn't bullshitting. Love the Mountjoy record. Love it.
Yeah, I listen to those guys all the time.
So Harden signed officially. I don't know if you saw the picture of Daryl.
Yeah.
In a polo's a little tight, from being honest, but sitting outside at a picnic bench or something with Harden, and he signed it. So that's all. There's not really any news there except for that it actually happened. How you feel?
Harden's guy was there too, right? Is that his agent?
Yes.
Or manager?
Well, it was just some guy. I didn't know who it was. I was just going to kind of ignore it because I felt like I should know who it was, but I didn't know who it was. Yeah, no idea. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. I'm sure CJ probably knows. Any feelings for him signing?
A lot of people. Oh, I mean, great.
Yeah.
Good for Daryl.
Yeah.
People got to stop telling me things that I can't say on the podcast. I heard a funny story.
What?
I can't say it. I think because I'm about to say it. And I'm like, oh, this is a piece.
Well, what's it about?
My memory has gotten worse and worse over the years.
What's it about?
The Harden, yeah, there it is. The Harden PJ Tucker friendship.
Oh,
but it's all good.
Do you think
nothing bad or weird or anything?
PJ Tucker took a bullet for sex too?
Oh, that's interesting. That's not what the story's about, but
okay,
I could open it up.
Wow.
It's
what if all of Harden's friends? Maybe that's like if it's like joining a gang or something. Like you have to do like certain thing or whatever. If Harden, to be friends with him, you have to take a bullet for Harden sex with somebody.
I struggle to see how many situations you would need to take a sex bullet. More than just like you can't interact with anybody outside of the bubble, but I could probably pitch on it. We could probably come up with a couple. But no, I mean, look, I've been eating the Harden propaganda for
you sure have
for weeks now, and I love it. And there was a good line in a Kyle Neubeck post where he basically said, there's two extremes of what the Sixers have, which at their peak, it's Harden and Embiid in one of the best, if not potentially upside wise, the best duo in the league. And at the worst, it's paying a lot of money and a lot of responsibility to two guys who are either old and a downturn, and another guy that you can't necessarily count on his body holding up, which all could be a disaster. Hence the bet the Sixers not in the playoffs for a hard hedge situation, but. The upside of, as Matt from Mountjoy noted, the pick and roll combination being the best in the league, and them having a year of stability with a lot of depth behind them and some more two-way play, like there's a real possibility that this goes really well. And nothing weird has happened so far. If anything, all the weird stuff that have happened this offseason, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm forgetting anything, but all the weird stuff that has happened this offseason with the Sixers has been weird good, in the sense of like Harden taking a pay cut. And I guess the Michael Rubin then funneling that pay cut in $15 million in t-shirts, which is obviously just a fun thing we're speculating about, but nothing.
Where would you categorize Ben Simmons celebrating his birthday on Instagram for 8 days?
I mean, immaterial, wholly immaterial to the Sixers.
Okay. Then yes, I'm on the same page. On the same page with you.
So
sure.
I mean, it's been the summer league wasn't excellent, but it was uneventful. So it's only been just like normal stuff. There's been a couple Matisse Tobias rumors, but not much. They're hanging out at the white party. The other guys, all pretty good so far. So not counting my chickens, but maybe this is just the year where everything goes pretty good and they get into the conference finals for the first time in 21 years.
Before we get to Durant to Boston, I want to make one addendum, just sort of like extra information, just like a thought bubble for everybody about the arena at 10th and Market. I made a comment, and there's several studies about like the arenas not being positive economic generators for the areas that they're in. It's sort of like it seems like it would be, but it isn't.
Which is the thing that billionaire owners will say a lot as an excuse to be granted public funding.
Right. Because it seems logical, right, that it would. And here's the road that I just want to take you down when you're thinking about this. First of all, like at least half of the Sixers games that happen are on weekdays. So a game starts at 7:00. People are barely getting there on time, as you see. So like the idea of like getting dinner before the Sixers game for at least half the games is like gone. Doesn't happen, right? And then the game is over at 10:00. People are not going to dinner. No reasonably big group of people is going to dinner during the week afterwards. Okay, so that another fact.
Is an argument to be made that since it's closer, nobody like.
It's not closer to anybody. It's only closer to people.
It's closer if you work in Center City, isn't it?
Right, but it's closer by. If you work in Center City, you're taking the Broad Street line to the like I guess, but most people going to the game don't live in Center City. I would posit that it's further. It'll take longer for other people. Even so, you're not getting dinner beforehand, and it's a small number of people that would. I think. Just is all my opinion, right? Second thing being, like, if the idea of going to dinner before or hanging out after was so attractive to people, you'd think in the 50 years that the stadiums have been in South Philly, there would be more than one bar right there. Like one thing, which is owned by the way, the arena that's next to it. And there isn't. And the second thing I would like to say, or the last thing is, and this is not, no offense to anybody who goes to these places or goes to this place, but if you've ever gone to Xfinity Live after the fucking game, that's not what those businesses in Chinatown want, right? Like people who are going out after the game, like that's what that is. And I just like, I think there's
What do you mean?
It's just young, like drinking a lot. Like it's like Lucy's. It's like what Old City used to be, right? Like I think there's as much of a chance if I'm just a normal person that wants to go out to dinner in Chinatown, that if there's a Sixers game that night, I'm like, no. Like if I'm not going to the game, like I think there's a reasonable chance that it will keep people away. Look, like Citi Field, I'm in New York area now. You go to Citi Field, there's nothing around Citi Field. You go to Yankee Stadium, there's one significant bar near Yankee Stadium. Like this doesn't like it just it doesn't happen the way that you would think that it logically does.
But
so again, not against the arena,
places like
but
Fenway and Wrigley, like when they're more built into the neighborhoods, like there are more places around there, and it establishes. I'm just asking. I'm not pro.
Sure.
I'm just asking, like establishing a culture of like more like foot traffic and walking to and from.
Absolutely. Now, Wrigleyville, where now it's Chicago's an interesting combination of both, right? There's nothing around whatever the White Sox stadium is called now. It's not Comiskey anymore, but whatever it was called.
Comiskey.
Yeah. Wrigleyville is great, but that has been a part of that culture for 100 years, you know? And by the way, that is a public transportation town. Everybody takes public transportation in Chicago. Like everybody takes the L. It is, I remember because I lived there for 2 years and I got a parking space along with my job, and my car literally sat there for, I think, like 13 months without moving it. And that's how that city is, but that is not, it's not Philadelphia. But yes, for sure. That's absolutely true that Wrigleyville is absolutely like that. But that is an area that is built around like go out. You go afterwards in Wrigleyville, it's like fucking party town. I think one of the issues here is that that's not what the businesses there want. Like, I guess it's not impossible to think that there could be new businesses that pop up in that area that are amenable to that sort of crowd, but the businesses that are there, I don't think want it at all. So,
I was wondering if we should have, because of the long off season ahead of us, if we should have someone from I saw like someone from the 76th place group, whatever. I saw Edelman just followed us, I think.
Oh, really?
On the podcast, and then someone from the like Chinatown, like tenants' rights.
Oh my God,
Coalition.
I would love to have an open forum for town hall.
I don't think probably at the same time. Well, maybe. I don't. Who knows? Maybe one after the other. I don't know. But as far as like,
maybe Tad.
We're staring down August and September.
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Tad. Do you want Tad? I would take Tad or Adelman. Or do you say Adelman followed the pod or followed you specifically?
I think me, but I think you probably also.
Oh, okay. I'll check.
But I don't know. Maybe they're looking to. I don't know.
Pretty sure Weber yelled right in his direction at that one game I was at with him. The Embiid, the first Embiid game ever that I was with Weber, when I'm pretty sure yelled at Josh Harris and stared him down.
Love it. Love it.
So the rumor is that, Brian Windhorst says that the conversations are not new, just roasting his coworker Woj by saying that the rumor wasn't new, but that the Celtics were in, actual conversations to trade for Kevin Durant, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a pick, and the Nets said no. By the way, this shifted the DraftKings odds for the Celtics. Let's see what Celtics title odds are now. Celtics title odds are, let's see, champion. They are the favorite at plus 450. I still think he's going to the Suns, but if I were the Boston Celtics, I would not trade. I certainly wouldn't trade Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. But I don't even think I'd trade Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant, be quite honest with you. What would you do?
So I think it's an interesting question. I think it's one of the more interesting like places to think about Durant going and think about how close they are to winning a championship. Obviously, they took the Warriors to 6 games in the finals, so you would think that they were close. But, and this goes back to things I've said all the time, is like the results of the previous year don't necessarily indicate things one way or the other. Because if Chris Middleton's healthy, I think that they win. I think that they lose that series. And you can't just assume you're going to be back there. So just going like, now we're going to keep it tight and keep it as is, run it back, is a weird combo. It is like not a just easy assumption to make. I do think the Malcolm Brogdon signing is annoyingly good. The Malcolm Brogdon trade, I guess.
Trade. Yeah.
Even though they didn't trade anything really for it. Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant still. He's 34, right? 34?
Will be 34.
He's not 37.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Durant, you're going to get at least 3 good years. Maybe not elite years, but 3 good years still. Jaylen Brown is expiring after not this season, but next season.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a chance you get
26.
less than that if you're prepared. So basically, like right now, this argument is if you're not willing to trade Jaylen Brown and something for Durant, then you have to be like, we're going to max out Jaylen Brown. We're going to give him everything because somebody's going to, or he's going to want it. I get not wanting to break up the chemistry, but this big leak of like, this is happening or this is possible or they're offering this or whatever might have already done that for you in some sense.
Right.
It might have already made it a little bit weird and all that stuff. But I also do think like if it doesn't work out, if they make this trade and it doesn't work out, then they're like in a pretty rough spot going forward because they're not that deep of a team. They really have to, if they make this trade, then they really have to win a championship in the next year or two. And like if Tatum or Durant gets injured in the next 2 years, which is highly possible, Durant because of his age and injury history, Tatum because of how many miles have been on those legs for the past year or two, then like you really put yourself in a hole. So I get going all in. So I would probably fall in the middle of it and say, yeah, I would trade Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a pick maybe. Or I would try to go like, is there a way where you can do it around like Robert Williams and make people act like he's good. He's just is very frequently not healthy and very limited on the offensive end in a bunch of ways. So could you kind of like sneak it in there that way somehow with Robert Williams, Derek White, and a bunch of picks? I don't know if that is going to get there. But if maybe they value Robert Williams so much, who knows? But I think that
that doesn't work from a salary standpoint.
Well, yeah, you'd have to add some stuff, whatever. But if there's a way to keep Jaylen Brown, there probably isn't. But just to say it because people are saying that like Robert Williams is off limits, and I just wouldn't necessarily treat him that way. But like a fair deal for both sides that I would do in either direction is Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and like probably 2 protected picks or one unprotected pick and one other protected pick. So I think they'd be easily the favorites in the East. I think he's obviously better than Jaylen Brown. I wonder how good Tatum would be as like a kind of second option sometimes. It's kind of one of those weird things. But Tatum's gotten way better. He's a way better distributor. He's a way better defender. I still don't love how many tough shots he takes. But he's really very good in an annoying way. And Jaylen Brown has gotten better and he's great and I love him and he's cool. Easy guy to root for. Would like to see him on a different team, but I don't know. I think it probably doesn't end up happening because I don't think Danny Ainge was the only one that's like gun shy in Boston. I think that's everybody around it. So I think they'll end up sending him sending Durant somewhere for just like a shit ton of picks rather than like a sort of middle ground where it's like not that many picks, but like a guy that's probably like the 23rd best player in the league type thing. I think it'll end up being like a more of the Harden type trade, the first one, for a bunch of picks type deal.
Yeah, well, like it's weird. Like if you're the Nets, what are you doing with Jaylen Brown? Right?
I think
like,
you're hoping he becomes one of the top 15 players in the league, and you're building around him.
Right. But you only have 2 years to do it. You know.
Well, I think you make this trade because you want to give him a big ass contract.
Yeah. I don't know. It's wild. It's
it's a fun thing to think about. Fun way to get us through the end of July.
Yeah, I think if I'm looking at it, I'm saying like even if I'm making it like likely, it's still not very likely that I win a championship. So I'd rather just have more times that I could win a championship than trying to win a championship 1 year or 2 years.
I think I think you'd give yourself a little bit more than that, and then you could get, if you have Durant there, then maybe you could draw somebody that like on the minimum or next year or something like that to take a pay cut to win a championship with him, with those guys.
Maybe even Kyrie Irving. You never know.
Maybe even Kyrie Irving back to Boston. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, especially because both teams have a little bit of like, well, we'll just fucking walk away then. Because with Brooklyn, we don't have to trade him. We're gonna sit out. If he wants to sit, then he can sit. I don't think he will at this stage in his career, but if he wants to, then that's fine. But we don't have to trade him because he's got this many years in his contract. And if you're Boston, you're like, well, we just went to the finals, so we're not desperate to make a move. And so that's why I kind of think both teams will balk at each other for a while, and it'll end up going to a team for just a shitload of picks.
Yeah, I still think he's going to go to the Suns. Just feels like he'll end up going to the Suns, but just
their offer is like kind of light. I mean, I love Mikal Bridges, but their offer is pretty light now. So who knows?
Well, the offer is Bridges and all the picks, right?
Yeah, but I think, I mean, if you're saying picks in like, they're going to be very good with Durant, Ayton, Paul Booker for at least the next 3 years, probably.
Well, Ayton's probably gone after a year, right? And then Chris Paul's 37 and Durant's 34.
Those guys will definitely be older. But you got to think whether it's Ayton or somebody they get for Ayton, him and Booker, plus whoever's left, will still be like good enough. That's not going to be like a top 10 pick. And so the idea of getting like a bunch of, maybe you go like 2029 and that becomes something, but that's a lot of years to wait for something. I'd probably rather, is there a middle ground type team where you can trade them somewhere that gets you good picks soon, that you can start to turn it around rather than just, and build around the next guy rather than just waiting and because all their picks are gone too. It's a weird predicament for Brooklyn to be in, and they're like very, very much back to the like, D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen era of just like, maybe we'll like be sneaky interesting because there's nothing else to do.
And they have Ben Simmons. I don't know if you know. It's his birthday.
They have Ben Simmons.
It's his birthday last week.
Birthday month.
Mentioned it on Twitter, on Instagram. So, all right. Thank you to Matt from Mountjoy. The new album is Orange Blood. It is available on all streaming services and their website, which is mountjoyband.com. Also, they are playing the Skyline Stage at the Mann in Philly, September 10th. Go to see CJ and his band of fucking friends on the stage. I can't believe CJ asked for more for like all his friends. It was a wild moment. I love it. Just threw his balls right there on the table and just said, "Come on, Matt from Mountjoy."
I wish I was here for it.
Yeah. And that's it. We'll talk to you next time. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah, Lick Face.